technically you didn't really apply. Thank you so much for being here today. I would really love to learn a little bit about you. So would you please tell me about yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Young, first for inviting me here to do this session. When you hit 1 million subscribers, don't forget little people like me. But hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan, and I'm based in Atlanta. And just a little bit about myself. I've been in tech for over 10 years. And really passionate about entrepreneurship, really passionate about also business strategy. And that has led to a career in sales, managing enterprise customers, driving revenue. And then aside from work, I'm a family man. So I have a wife and 2 kids. And then also on the side, I work on cars. So I'm kind of like a fake mechanic. But I've gained some major headway in some of the projects that I've been working on. But that's just a little bit about myself briefly.
Gotcha. So was your first job also a sales and tech kind of role?
Yeah, it was in a tech company that was based in the UK. It was a startup company, and it typically the career trajectory within a sales profession is you sort of start out as either an inside sales rep or a sales development professional, where you source leads for other full sales cycle professionals to close the deals. So I started out as an SDR of what they will call it, and I was picking up the phone, making 100 phone calls a day, and hope to get 10 appointments. And sometimes, in some days, I struck out. I didn't get any appointments. But I think the persistency and the consistency, it kind of yields results as a sales professional, because you have to keep going even in spite of rejection.
Gotcha. Love how you mentioned about consistency and persistency. I believe in those as well. And yeah, I think those are really key to anything if you want a piece of anything in life, really. So, Jonathan, I know you work as a field account manager at Google. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work as an account manager, managing enterprise customers. And what that means is, it means basically managing C-level executives and or kind of their either superiors or colleagues, and we manage the relationship of an account for a Google product investment. So specifically, I manage the Google Workspace enterprise accounts within the Southeast, and my job is to make sure that customers' expectations are met, and or remain curious and understanding their business needs, identifying challenges, and being able to connect with the internal teams to be able to dissect some of those challenges and be able to come up with a solution to be able to make a recommendation to the customer. But that's at a high level. There's a lot of variables and other nuances inside my role that I have to deal with, but that's kind of
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about your process of getting into Google? How did you have a referral? Like, what you reached out from someone? How was the interview like? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was very interesting in that it was not traditional. Typically, someone would know someone at Google. Someone would either have a family member that could help vouch and be able to bridge connections. But me, it was really unconventional. And when I say unconventional, the most unconventional that you can even fathom. So it was 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was sick and tired of working for my previous employer. I went on the Google website and I saw the role that was advertised, and I said, hey, I believe I have the skill set to be able to apply for this role. But then knowing Google, everyone wants to work for Google. So I said, I'm not going to apply externally, because in my mind, I thought it was a black hole. I thought almost impossible to be able to go from applying on a website and competing with all of these other applicants that may seem either have higher level education or higher level, branding from their, universities. I just said no chance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leverage my sales skills in order to reach out to people that I do not know, in order to let them know who I am, in order to sell them on why I was perfect for the position. So what I did was I went and used a website called data.com, and I typed in Google recruitment, and all of these recruiter email addresses came up. I did not know these people. And I chose 10 email addresses from that platform, and I sent them a marketing email. And when I say marketing email, it's a 5 to 6 sentence outreach email, just sharing basically your top accomplishments or your background in a quick way, without sharing your resume, right? And that's exactly what I did. Out of the 10 emails that I sent, only one person got back to me, and they said, "Jonathan, thank you so much for reaching out. I have sent your information over to the assigned recruiter, and they will be reaching out to you." And within 24 hours, I was already in the pipeline for the role.
So technically, you didn't really apply. Wow. And then I would assume that you had and then after that it was probably the traditional Google interviewing process. You have that phone screening with the recruiter, interview with the hiring manager and stuff. If you don't mind, can you share a little bit about your experience?
Sure. So once the recruiter reached out to me after that 24 hours, I was just jumping with joy, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. I've been successful in sales, but for a business, but now I've been successal potentially for myself and helping to generate this opportunity. So I said, I'm going to go for it. And I had an initial screen call, and that went really well. Shared high level background of my role, my previous roles, and my accomplishments, and how it mirrored the role that they were looking to hire for. And then me and the recruiter, we just got on really well. And then she reached out to the hiring manager, and then I was able to connect really well with the hiring manager, who then said he would put me forward in the next phase of the process. And within the Google interview process, there are 4 areas that they kind of look at you for, and those 4 areas are cognitive ability, leadership, role-related knowledge, and then also leadership. So those are the 4 areas. Let me see if I can say leadership, cognitive ability, Googliness, and role-related knowledge. So those are the 4 areas Google assesses a candidate's ability to either meet the expectations and the criteria for the role.
Gotcha. What do you think made that only one recruiter, to actually forward your information to the other assigned recruiter? They probably get not thousands, but hundreds of emails just from people like us who are looking for jobs. What do you think that that one person had something on helping you out?
Yeah, I think I'm not saying anyone who don't reply to your email like humanity, but I think in this case, I can really honestly say that this person that replied back to my email was a recruiter, and I think she perhaps empathized, towards my outreach, having known me or had any connection to me, and then also I think perhaps the email did not come off as pushy. It did not come off as aggressive, too aggressive, but I did ask, hey, can we facilitate a connection to the appropriate or the assigned recruiter? That was my only ask, but then I just had 4 or 5 sentences before that basically said, hey, we do not know each other, but my name is Jonathan, and I've been in sales and I've worked for these companies, and I'm really passionate about technology. And I think perhaps the messaging kind of resonated, even though the other 9 people didn't reply, which is fine, but I got through the door anyway.
Yeah, the right person replied back to you, so that's all you needed.
Exactly.
So yeah, shifting gears a little bit, you kind of gave me a like high level of what you do as a field account manager. Can you maybe tell me a little bit about your day to day?
Yeah. So before COVID, it was in 3 areas. I had an office that I can go into to have my meetings, or I would travel to customer sites. So my region is Southeast, so I'm mainly traveling maybe 60% of the time. So jumping on planes to Florida, North Carolina, all these different neighboring states where all my customers are located. And then the last one, number 3, is my home office. And I'll probably spend about 20%. But now with COVID, and us existing in this new world, everything has been 100% done from my home office. And the day-to-day consists of meeting with customers, making sure that their concerns are addressed, making sure that their questions are asked. Because the big thing about account management is making sure that you're connecting with the customers at the right level, in order to make sure decisions are continuing to be made regarding the Google partnership. And yeah, they come, and it's multifaceted, right? Because if you're managing, a multinational organization that has, 100,000 users, or 100,000 employees, and it's a pretty big organization. So
yes.
You're not going to be the only one in the account necessarily. You're just going to be an extension of the Google team, of one of many that are in the account trying to drive value, and at the same time make sure that the account is going in the right trajectory.
Gotcha. I know you mentioned that you've been in sales for a long time, but once you did come on board to Google, did you have any learning curves?
Yeah, it was a huge learning curve, because I think coming from IBM, coming from companies like VMware, I think those companies operate a little bit different in terms of traditional approaches to how they do business. It may have changed now. It's been a couple of years. I know IBM is now shifting, to targeting more millennials, etc. But I think on the Google side, when I first came on board, one of the things that I got that was really weird for me is even having video chats, like we're doing right now. That was a big thing, because within Google, that's huge. We created that culture, internally, and a lot of our cross-functional teams are not actually in the same location. So it requires you to jump on, a Google Meet, to be able to cross-collaborate, work on projects, work on accounts, work on approvals that need to be done for a contract. But that was one of the biggest learning curves for me, was the actual tech, because I was just used to dialing in, meeting with senior level people, hi, how, and just learning their voice and their tone to know who they are. But then now, technology has shifted, and obviously Google has played a large part in, driving that new culture and that new collaboration and productivity forward.
That's a very interesting point, because I think the other piece of, the video chatting and this whole virtual, setting really did come up from the US. I think is because it's a huge country. You can't really meet with other people every single day, and because back in Korea it's super small. We usually you can just basically go to someone within an hour or two. So it's
wow.
You don't really need to get onto these virtual calls. So that's another thing that I think kind of impacted this whole thing. But yeah, makes total sense. What do you like most, and what do you like least about your role?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I enjoy is working with customers, satisfying the customers that I'm working with, especially if it's a complicated customer. I love those ones, right? Where you have a CIO or you have a CEO who is, anti-Google. But then by the time I step into the account, understand their point of view, their perception, and I'm able to reverse that in time due to me managing the relationship, and also, it's objection handling too. So they say, oh well, Google is not enterprise ready. Well, let's look at some case studies and then also let's look at some Google's history and how we've evolved from targeting initially consumers to actually targeting businesses and helping them be successful. So that's a cool thing I love and I enjoy. The other kind of low light of the role is more of the operations side. So there are a lot of systems. There's a lot of red tape, as you can imagine. Working for a large company at Google on a sales team, in order to get multi-year large deals like 10 million, 20 million, 40 million, you have to go through a large approval chain. And that hits a lot of teams. That hits finance, that hits operations, that hits the pricing team, it hits the marketing team. So pretty much every area of outside of sales have to look at it and approve. So that takes a little bit of time. But I think that is one of the things that I kind of cringe, kind of working through. Yeah. The process is getting better, but I think to your question, that's the one that popped into my mind.
Yeah. What surprised you the most after joining Google?
Yeah, the most thing that has surprised me in my time at Google has been the people. Easily. The people that they source and bring into the company are some of the most brightest, smartest, straightforward, collaborative people I've ever met. They're teams that I don't even work with, but when I do have to work with them and I ask them for help, they're willing to step in to help. And that's been very different for me in my other experiences with other tech companies. But that's been the biggest kind of transformational excitement with coming to work every day, is that I get to work with some of the smartest and brightest people in the industry. And that's even changing to be improved more, because we're attracting, especially with the division that I'm in, Google Cloud, we're attracting some of the most senior level leaders to join our organization. So it's going to continue to increase, because if they come in, then they're going to bring in their network of people, to run these organizations. So yeah.
Awesome. My last question: advice for those who want to join Google, or who want to start a career in sales.
Yeah, so I think my advice for people who are interested in working for Google, regardless of roles or functions, is, I would say, be different. I think the traditional approach and how people get into Google is through referrals. So if you know someone at Google, I would say leverage that connection, get them to put you in the system to do the referral. But I think also, when I say be different, I mean be different. So it doesn't need to be through a referral. It can literally simply be, and I've done this before, even before I went into Google, was just reach out to people on LinkedIn. Do a keyword search on people or a role. You can type in software engineer and have all these engineers from Google come up, and then you can send them a note and say something along the lines of, hey, I would like to learn more about your background. I would like to see if you can give me some advice. Because I think that is the right approach when you are reaching out to people that you do not know. And I think that is the biggest kind of barrier that you can overcome, is you have to make the recipient that you're emailing, and it has to be about them. It cannot be, and I get these all the time, people interested working at Google. I don't even know these people. Hey, Jonathan, I'm interested in this role. Attaches my resume. Please refer me. I didn't know you. I can't advocate for you. But I think on the other side of the pendulum, that's why my advice towards sending a thoughtful note to the recipient and making it about them. And then maybe perhaps you can talk to them for 30 minutes and then make maybe 20 or 25 minutes all about them learning. And then the last 5 minutes of the call, talk about you. Talk about what you wanted to get from the call, and maybe they could become your advocate. Now, to your second question, how can you get into the career of sales? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Any background works. I mean, I've seen technical people, literally say, I'm tired of tech. I just want to work with customers. And then they do that. And then I've seen people like myself, have a liberal arts degree, really good in front of the customer in terms of asking questions, understanding needs, being curious, that literally just jump into a sales role pretty easily. So I think if you're interested in getting into the field of sales, I would say learn more about the technology. Learn more about the technology that you want to sell. But then I think more importantly, start to research companies that you believe you can bring value to. Like, for example, if you want to work for Tesla, then learn more about the automotive industry and seeing where the electrical batteries, for how they power cars. Where is that going from an innovation standpoint? Because that's going to help you in the interview process when you convey that enthusiasm for wanting to work for this company in this industry for that product.
Those are really good advices. I think summing up, I kind of hear it should be, you basically think about in a more customer centric way how people would receive what you say, not about saying what I want to say kind of thing. Jonathan, I think this was really, really, really great video. Thank you so much for your time today. Really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Young. And as I stated before, once you get to 1 million, man, don't forget little people like me.
If I get to 1 million, I will personally send you a paycheck of my 1 month cost. That will probably be a pretty huge deal if I do hit 1 million.
That's it.